Hello everyone. Happy snow day. It's Monday, February 1st. And in class today we were going to cover Mary Wilkins Freeman's A New England Nun. But we can do it this way because you guys wrote such great questions that I'm going to answer. And then I'll hit some highlights in the story. So I'm going to just work through your really fabulous questions here. Jenna, how did Louisa and Joe meet? Was it an arrangement? We're not sure. The story doesn't tell us, but we do know the story is set in the 1890s in New England. And maybe marriages weren't arranged in a strict sense, but you know, you are a boy is born, a girl is born in a town, and there's a good chance that someday they're going to wind up married because people did not travel far out of their town to find a spouse. So it's just sort of one of those things. They were there, they were in the same town, maybe their eyes met at an ice cream social, and the next thing you know, they're engaged, right? So semi-arranged, I guess. Jenna, also second question, does Louisa ever find another love after Joe? So Jenna has actually asked two good questions here that the story really doesn't answer. However, we can also use what the story tells us to speculate about what happens next. My guess would be no. She doesn't find another love after Joe. She's discovered while Joe is gone that she's pretty happy, peaceful, content, serene, living by herself. Who knows, right? You know, love can strike like lightning. But I think based on the story and what little we do know, I'm going to say she probably isn't. And she's probably not going to meet anybody. And she'll grow old, alone, and serene and peaceful. So good for her. And then you ask another question that the story doesn't tell, but we can think about. Good job, Jenna. Does Joe end up with Lily? Yeah, we can pretty much guess that once Louisa sort of frees him up. They probably wind up together, and you know, I think they're both kind of annoying, Joe and Lily. However, they seem like a nice couple. Lily seems like a female version of Joe, kind of wholesome, not overly complex, you know what I'm saying. Very good, thanks Jenna. Nicole, why would Louisa wait for Joe 14 years when they weren't even communicating? Yeah, they maybe exchanged an occasional letter at first, but she waits, she likes it, right? Number one, I guess people maybe were a little more loyal back in the day, as you young people like to say. But she made a commitment, she's gonna stick with it, and then it becomes a convenient commitment, right? A convenient commitment. I think that Louisa would have been quite happy if Joe never ever came back. And she has a nice peaceful life for 14 years. Nicole's second question, why did Louisa not confront Joe about Lily? Now that's a good question, and I'm going to circle that, and we're going to loop back to that, Nicole. Why did Joe still want to get married when he obviously did not love Louisa? Again, honor, right? At the end he says, honor's right, and I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. But seriously, people, don't ever marry somebody out of loyalty and honor. I wouldn't want somebody marrying me out of some sense of commitment, obligation. I would want somebody to marry me because, you know, my good looks. No, because they want to, right? Not because they feel obligated to. So he would have married her out of commitment, out of honor, and they probably would have stuck together, right? Very low divorce rate back then, for better, for worse. And he's going to stick with that. He's going to stick with that. So good question. Emily Kirch, why was Louisa known as an older woman than Joe, even though Joe was older? Good question. Our author does mention that Louisa seemed older. It's just a descriptive point. Some people seem older than others. I look out in my classroom and I see 18-year-olds who have, by the look on their face, appear to be 30. And I see 25-year-olds who look like they're 15. Not necessarily like wrinkles and that stuff. It's just the way the world affects people. Louisa's had a lot of loss in her life, her mother, and then her brother, right? That's always very sad. And I think life has just kind of worn her out a little bit. Living alone isn't easy, even though as peaceful as it was for her. So it's just sort of something about, hey Simon, it's just something about her that she just seems older. But good question there, good question. How could Louisa and Joe be in a relationship together for 14 years and not see each other face to face? Well, it sounds ideal to me, Emily. Don't tell my wife I said that. No, just kidding. It's just, you know, they're committed to each other, and it is kind of an old-fashioned thing that they would do that. Excuse me, Simon. Why didn't Louisa confront Joe about Lily? Ooh, it could have been like, that was another question Nicole had. Yeah, it'd be like an episode of The Bachelor at the rose ceremony, and somebody doesn't get one of the roses, and Simon, it would not be a cat fight. That's rude, just to say, because it's women, it would be a cat fight. That's a sexist thing. I guess he can say that since he's a cat. I don't know. Go figure. How are people under the impression, this is Michael, thank you. How are people under the impression that Louisa is old even though she was younger than Joe? Well, we already talked about that. Good question, Michael. When and how did Louisa and Joe first meet? They're same town. It happens, right? Why is Louisa surprised to see Joe even though she was expecting him? There's a good one. Well, she didn't know he was coming. I mean, you got to stop and imagine this, right? We live in a world where you can text. Heck, you know what? On Saturday, I was doing a Zoom, face-to-face, real-time meeting with a friend of mine in Buren in the Netherlands, right? Face-to-face, talking just like that we were in the same room. 1890, not really that long ago. That is not happening, right? Slow communication, if any, and she didn't even know he was coming. And then boom. Hey, it's your fiance. I haven't heard from you in a while, but how's that wedding dress coming? It happened, right? It happened. It's hard for us to conceive of because of the time that we live in. Emily Malloy. Why would Louise wait 15 years for a man that may never come back? It could have taken 50 years for him to make his wealth. Well, because she liked living alone. And you know, it's not that bad. I lived alone from age 27 to age 40. It was pretty good. Yeah. I came and went as I pleased. My male friends were quite envious, to tell you the truth. They would say things like, how'd you do it, man? How'd you manage to be 35 and single and riding your bike all weekend? And so it's pretty good, you know. Give it a try, or at the very least, don't feel some adult pressure to get married, right? Give it a try. Give it a try. Did Joe try to go after Lily after Louisa ended things with him? Oh yeah, I'm sure they reconnected. Yeah. Oh, Emily, good question here. Good. These are all great questions, guys. You made my job easy today, even on a snow day. Why wouldn't they try to figure out a better option for their dog, her dog, Caesar, forever keeping him tied and no more putting, yeah. Yes, and I'm with you, Emily, but so the question here is, why does our author spend 2 really big paragraphs in what, an 8-page story on the dog, right? Simon just turned his back. He's like, why come there's no cat? So the dog Caesar is very important. Caesar has been locked, chained up. He was a puppy, he bit somebody. He's been chained up. How long? That's right, 14 years. Clue, right? Clue. Louisa's been away, Joe's been away how long? 14 years. The author's sort of sending a clue for us to connect the two here. Louisa is really not looking forward to getting married now that ever, and especially now that it might actually happen. And she's watching Caesar. eating his food, and she starts thinking about her pending marriage. She saw innocent, because Joe is planning to let Caesar loose. Now that's not cool, right? That's sort of like, hey, I'm the guy, that dog's fine, I'm gonna let your dog loose. Hey, it's her dog, right? It's her dog. So when she thinks of Joe setting Caesar loose, she saw innocent children bleeding in his path. She was herself very fond of the old dog because he had belonged to her dead brother, and he was always very gentle with her. Still, she had great faith in his ferocity. She always warned people not to go too near him. She fed him on ascetic fare of corn mush, very mild food. No flesh or bones, right? Louisa looked at the old dog munching his simple fare and thought of her approaching marriage and trembled. Still no anticipation of disorder and confusion, so clearly she connects she's projecting her fears of getting married onto Caesar. And when she says she sees bleeding children in her path, well, what is in her future if she gets married? Anyone? Very good. Children, right? Children. And 1890, childbirth was a brush with death. Nowadays, it's very rare that a woman dies in childbirth. It does still happen. It's very sad. But with modern ultrasounds and all the prenatal care, it rarely happens. It was very common in the 1800s. Maybe 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 women died in childbirth. Walk through any old cemetery around here and look at the graves from 1800s, and you'll see Mr. John Smith. Mrs. John Smith died age 34. And then there's another Mrs. John Smith. And then you can see when the kids were born, and when, the stones tell the story. So childbirth was very dangerous. And hey, let's say Louisa survived childbirth. Can you imagine her with a baby? She can't stand the little dust on the floor. Imagine her changing diapers from some rotten, stinking little baby. Oh, it'd be awful, right? It'd be awful. I've never changed a diaper. 51 years and I've never changed a diaper, hoping to make it to the end of things. Those will be my final words on my deathbed. I never changed a diaper. All right. So Caesar is very important, and Caesar is symbolic in the story. It's interesting, it's a dog. Dogs often represent sexuality or fertility in literature and in art history, right? Male dogs are known to be kind of horny. The word dog, you dirty dog, Snoop Dogg, all of that is tied to sort of sexuality of sexual prowess of men. So good to bring up Caesar. He definitely represents her fears of marriage. So thanks, Emily. Maria, what is the canary's response to Joe? And what is the canary's response to Joe entering the room? Well, animals, of course, are very sensitive to humans. They're humans, and the canary can sense the tension in the room when Joe comes in. We're going to look at that conversation more closely in a minute. And canaries often, you ever hear the expression canary in a coal mine? Coal miners deep underground would take a canary with them, and when the canary died, they knew they hit poison gas and they better get out of there. So a canary, this canary doesn't die, but it kind of goes crazy, picking up on the tension in the room. All right, good. So I'm going to end part 1 of our lesson here on a New England Nun, and we'll pick this up in a minute.